I'll hit live now.
Okay.
Okay, we're live.
Okay, thank you, Carl. Just like to call our first meeting of 2021 to order, and welcome everybody. Hope everybody's keeping COVID safe, and hope you are going to have a better 2021 than you had a 2020, and that we'll soon be able to meet face to face. So we have a lot to cover, so I'm not going to spend much time with Chair's remarks. That's pretty much it. And I'd just like to move to the approval of the Communications Committee agenda and the supplemental agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Bill.
So who was that?
Bill.
Bill? Moved by Bill, seconded by
Charles.
Tim, I saw. I'm having
Okay.
a hard time, so you have to forgive me when it comes to hands. The screen is too busy here, and I can't kind of separate things very well. So moved by Bill, seconded by Tim. All in favor? And on and off with hands. I think anyone opposed? Can I hear? I don't hear any opposed, so away we go. I'll just ask for opposed instead of in favor, if that's okay. If you're opposed, just holler. Do we have any declarations of conflict of interest with respect to this agenda? I don't see any. So we'll move to the PowerPoint presentation, which is, not sure who's up first for staff. John
I'll
is.
take it from here. Thank you, Becky. So good morning, everyone, and welcome back. I appreciate making time for this February meeting. We've got a few updates for you this morning, most of them on some business continuity, but in the slide deck this morning, before we get to the main agenda, we wanted to put a few different projects and program updates on your horizon, because we do expect to bring some updates back in March, and we're looking for some feedback from members. So stay tuned for that. Obviously, the COVID pandemic continues to unfold, and staff are doing their best to adjust our programming needs to meet the needs of our community and the environment. And in most cases, and as you'll see in the agenda, we do have suggestions on paths forward for some of our different programs. And like I mentioned, there are some topics we'd like to bring back for discussion in March that we'll bring you up to speed on. Just a quick housekeeping comment for the meeting. I think everyone's pretty well versed, but do your best, as best as you can, to leave yourself muted during the meeting. If you've got a headset, that'll work good. And just, of course, remember to unmute yourself when you're called upon. I did want to.
Sorry to interrupt, John, but just a reminder, it sounds of papers rustling. So if everyone can just double check that they're muted, that would be great. Thanks.
Thank you. Just a quick update, and we'll start off today with our conservation areas. As always, there's always signs that need updating and messaging that needs adjusted. So we still have signs at all of our conservation areas that are open and closed. You'll see signs like this and signs like this at the sites that are seasonally closed. This isn't something we generally posted in the past, but with our increased visitation and lots of eager people looking to get out there and find a good spot to hike or explore the outdoors, we've definitely had to ramp up some of our directional signage, property signage, trailhead signage this year. So a lot of these are temporary signs, but we will be looking to replace them with some permanent signs this spring. So you can stay tuned for updates on that. And I'll pass things off to Taylor.
Good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. For the past few weeks, crews have been harvesting dead or dying trees at the Warwick Forest to be used for timber. Harvesting tenders are awarded through a competitive application process, and SNC's communications team puts effort into promoting those available tender opportunities through social media, advertising, and press releases. So because of the tender operation, the harvesting operation, pardon, the south trails at the Warwick Forest have been closed, and we did develop some temporary signage to close those trails, and we do expect them to be reopening by the end of the week. SNC staff recently and proactively responded to a public hazard at the Warwick Forest by closing the trails and posting some warning signage. Perhaps some of you may remember the heavy snowfall we received in early January with some above freezing temperatures. It was really heavy. I know just shoveling it here at my house, it was quite heavy snow. So you can imagine that heavy snow on trees, just what could happen. So we actually saw some trees collapse over the trail network at the Warwick Forest. You know, trees that were bending over the trail, and just some heavy snow hazards overhead. So the SNC communications team did respond to this hazard by creating some temporary signage, closing the trails. And this usually is responded with some strong public relations messaging and work and efforts from our staff. For instance, we received dozens of emails, phone calls, and online messages from area residents, you know, curious to know more about why we'd close the trails and when they would be reopening. And it is worth noting that a common question we did receive was, you know, why only this park? Well, staff only observe these conditions at this one location. We recently created a short video on social media promoting, oh, it's quite loud, John. John?
Did I mute it effectively or no?
Sorry, that's the volume's quite loud on that, at least through my headset. I'm not sure if you'd like me to talk over that video, but maybe the volume could be turned down a bit.
Yeah, I've got it off. Sorry about that. You want to talk through it and I'll play it after.
Yeah, sure. So recently we created this short video for social media, just promoting how it is that we go and groom trails, promoting the over 30 kilometers or so of local trails that we maintain for winter use throughout Eastern Ontario, and staff groom them usually on a weekly basis, and also just promoting proper trail etiquette and that motorized vehicles are not permitted. So feel free to play the video here, John, if you'd like.
Little technical difficulty there, John. Do we want to hold the video over for the end?
The video is almost done. It might play differently on each of your screens, but because it's a YouTube integration, you can also click it yourself to see it. And I should have mentioned that in advance.
Okay.
It looks like the video is wrapping up. It is available on our YouTube channel, and of course was promoted just this week on social media. I think this might be a good time to pause as well if there are any questions on some of our messaging around our park use. I see Cindy.
Yep, no, it's just a comment. I think it's, the trails are great. The grooming is great. I've been going to everyone I can, and I just want to thank SNC staff for keeping it so passable and making it so enjoyable to go out there. So just thank you, and I appreciate it. And they look good. All the trails are looking great, and the signage and everything, you know, so it's very clear. So thank you.
Thanks, Cindy. And it was an important update to share with you guys because, you know, we generally promote winter recreation. You know, we've kept some of these parks open for quite some time, but certainly this year, and especially right now, you know, people are very eager to find spaces to get out. I noticed on social media just a few minutes ago, someone messaged us saying which parks are open. And I see last night pretty late, somebody sent us a message around 10 p.m. that said, I've enjoyed this winter like no other before, and I'm 71 years young. Really great job keeping up the work and keeping these trails open, guys. So lots and lots of positive comments, especially around trail use, but it's certainly a very, you know, it keeps us very busy answering all these questions.
And I think later when we come to the numbers, the people using these areas, it's phenomenal for this year. And I've certainly had comments about how well received they have been. Okay, so.
Thank you. And I see Byron with a question.
Yeah, John, what would constitute a reason to do a trail? Like, we have no trails that are groomed in our area at all. And I know people around here keep asking me, do you guys have any groomed trails that we can walk on or ski on or something like that? Like what would constitute a trail to be groomed?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, largely we look for good winter-ready trail sites. We want to be able to groom trails that, don't have access to water or easily accessible. Places like the Warwick Forest, Oshman Forest, our parks in Russell are great candidates. And because of some of that work, we've been approached in the past to groom different municipal trails as well. I think about the Russell Recreation Trail, the New York Central Fitness Line. We groomed that. That, of course, is a paved trail, so it actually makes it much easier for grooming, but we don't need it to be paved to groom it. None of our other trails are paved. Some of them are, crushed stone, and some of them are very naturalized. In the past, we've groomed trails up in Orleans. We've helped Prescott Russell with their recreation trail. And I think, Byron, if you or the municipality if you've got a candidate site and you're wondering, would this benefit from being grooming? I mean, feel free to shoot us a message and we can reach out and have a chat with the municipality.
Yeah, I think could be one up on concession 4, which has a nice, wooden type of scenery that could be groomed.
Yeah,
and it's probably wide enough.
And what grooming helps for us, because most of our trails, as you'll recall, are multi-use, right? We want to be able to make sure we can welcome snowshoers and walkers and cross-country skiers. And if you've gone to a trail which has all these different uses, it's really hard to manage, what the trail looks like. But grooming really helps with that because we pack down the snow as much as we can to keep that compacted surface so that we can have a variety of different trail users. I think of trails up in Clarence Rockland. They've got a few different municipal parks, but what they do is they make different trails for different uses, which is great, but can also lead to a confusing maze in the forest. So that's why we really like grooming.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, John.
Thanks.
Staff have been drafting a homeowner's conservation guidebook. So what you're seeing here is actually a picture of the cover of the guidebook that we're working on right now. So what this is through several subdivision agreements, they can require builders to create guidebooks to the satisfaction of their local conservation authority to actually be provided to every new homeowner. So every year we actually review 3 to 5 of these guides for developers. But this new guide that we're developing would sort of streamline those efforts and provide consistent best messaging and branding. So we're looking to complete this in February, and we will be bringing it back to the committee in March. Yes, Cindy?
See a question from Cindy.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, are you also educating the developers on the types of trees to plant? Like, we're often seeing monoculture and non-native species. So I'm just wondering if that would be included in the guidebook. About the type of tree a homeowner could choose, and there could be a list of recommended varieties.
Certainly the guidebook does a good job of highlighting our native features to the area and native tree species. I mean, I can look into the guidebook and make sure that we include a list of species that homeowners could choose from, but certainly the point of the guidebook is to highlight those native features and protect our native ecosystem and ecology for sure. In terms of working with developers to select new trees, maybe John can elaborate on that. I'm not sure if we're involved in that process.
Sure. Yeah, of course. In many cases we are, Cindy, but of course in many others we are not. And it largely will depend on the subdivision agreement or the site plan. You'll know this through your municipality. Sometimes, the township can require the builder to plant 1 tree on every lot, right? And sometimes it's left up to the decision of the builder, right? So it really is great when we're able to say, you must plant a tree or you must have 2 trees on the lot. And our staff will work through the consultation process to provide recommendations. But like we often see, silver maples or some different trees being planted in some really intensely densified areas that probably may not, fit that tree in the long run. So it's an uphill battle, but I think especially in Ottawa, we've got some really great builders that are trying to do the right thing. And that's some of the expert advice that we can provide.
Yeah, it's like Norway maple, you know, and you'll see it right through a whole subdivision. So if you get something coming in like Emerald Ash Borer, you know, everything's wiped out again. So that's what we're
Exactly.
trying to educate on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyways, we're excited to bring this back next month. If anyone does have any questions, comments, feedback, feel free to loop Taylor in. This will hopefully be an update to a guide you might remember 10-ish years ago when we worked on the Finley Creek home guidebook for that development area.
We have been developing new signs, warning signs for the Chesterville Dam. These signs do need to be updated every so often, as they could fade over time or become worn out from weather exposure and sun exposure over time. So staff have been working on developing these updated signs for the Chesterville Dam. Although they do look simple in nature, they do have to follow a certain spec and accessibility guidelines set forth by the province. So there is some effort into producing these, everything down from the font to the spacing between letters and the size of them and the reflective coating on the panel. It all needs to meet very stringent provincial guidelines. So as I said, we do these updates as needed across all of our water control structures, and right now the ones at the Chesterville Dam will be replaced. You could imagine my surprise on December 23rd. I think it was my first day of Christmas holidays when I received a phone call that evening from our engineering team saying we would have to issue a water safety statement. So I'm not sure if any of you do remember, but it was sort of a green Christmas. We did receive some pretty heavy rain, and it was above freezing throughout the holiday season, especially right around Christmas Day. So as I said, we did issue a water safety statement on December 23rd, and staff were at the Chesterville Dam on Christmas Day operating the dam just to make sure that there were no ice jams. So this is sort of when you're on the SNC flood forecasting and warning team, you know, you're always sort of available and on call to send out those messages, operate the dam to protect people and property on behalf of our municipal partners. And there is a time-lapse video here of the dam that was taken on Christmas morning as it was being operated. It's not very long. I'm wondering, John, if you could play it in the background.
I'm going to go ahead and click it. I will note, obviously, same as the last video, it's a YouTube integration in Teams. So if you're using the Team app, you should see what I see. But if you're not, you probably won't. So you can go ahead yourself and click on the red little play button if it doesn't start playing right now. But again, like Taylor mentioned, if you're watching it, this is just a cool time-lapse video we've created. Staff recently installed new cameras at the Chesterville Dam, similar to the cameras we've installed at the office, if you've seen those before. And they really will help give staff, you know, a bird's eye view, an on-site view, right from our phones, right from our desktop computers. So it really helps with water management, with dam response, to be able to access these videos in real time. And it also helps us make neat videos like that. You might have just seen the ice break up if you're seeing the feed that I've got on the screen. And I think Taylor shared this on social media as well. I'll go to the next slide.
Thanks, John. Along with watershed conditions and messaging those updates, we've also been, in January, spent some time messaging ice conditions and ice safety. So we did see, just sort of anecdotally, an increased usage of waterways for ice skating and pond hockey and whatnot, possibly a correlation with the provincial restrictions and regulation. And as I said, much of the holiday season was spent, you know, above freezing temperatures or very sporadic freezing temperatures and snowfall. So staff had reported that the South Nation River was seeing, you know, pretty sporadic freeze over, that not all sections were frozen. And really, so we just took the opportunity to provide more messaging to the public, you know, reminding people that water courses don't usually freeze, you know, uniformly, that there's a lot of underlying factors that could affect ice thickness and ice safety. We issued a press release on this, which was covered in several local newspapers throughout the jurisdiction. And I also was on the local news station in Clarence Rockland, providing more information on ice safety and ice conditions and when it is safe to head onto the ice.
All right, so this is just a tree planting program update. So our record goal set for this year was to plant over 200,000 trees, and we have over 227,900 seedlings that are reserved for the spring of 2021 through all of our tree planting programs, and that includes our tree giveaways. So we've had over 3.2 million trees planted by SNC since 1990, and last year our last record was 165,000 trees planted.
Question.
Yeah.
Can people still order a few trees over the counter or to this string, or are they all finished?
So the over-the-counter tree program is now closed. It ended on February 1st. Our stock was very limited at this point, as most seedlings and species have been spoken for. So.
Thank you.
We'll still accept calls, Bill, especially for anyone's listening. Feel free to call us whenever. This still is a great time to try and, queue up your spring planting project for next year. The over-the-counter program is usually the one that we can accept orders pretty late in the season too. We don't require a site visit. We just need interested people that are interested in planting trees. But like Kelsey mentioned, stock is very limited. Blowing out our goal like this also blows out the available stock, and we're fortunate to have a few different nurseries that we're able to work with this year to pull off that milestone number.
Great, thank you.
So this year, again, we'll be doing our municipal tree giveaways with our 16 partner municipalities. We've already spoken with them, and we did send a memo to council earlier this week for their approval, but we have $500 per municipality allocated in our budget again this year, and I'll be bringing a report back in March with all of our program details and the safety guidelines that we will be following again this year.
And if I could add, if any of you keep in touch with your councils and can encourage them to add a few more dollars at this late date, some of the budgets aren't complete, I think that would be worthwhile.
Thank you.
So staff are having preliminary discussions right now on hosting the Friends of SNC Golf Tournament this year. And so that includes talking about venue selection and tournament format. This is, of course, entirely dependent on some public health guidelines and local restrictions that may be in place later this year, later this summer, in the fall. And of course, as we discussed last year, sponsorship opportunities as well. So as you may remember, the tournament was canceled last year due to the COVID-19 pandemic upon committee approval. And alternatively, we did host an online art auction, which we will discuss further later in the agenda. So we will bring a report back to the committee in March with some additional details on plans going forward for the tournament. And we do welcome any feedback from committee members on the golf tournament and proposed format and opportunities there. I think there's a question. I just can't see who it is.
Yeah, I just put my hand up for a question there, Taylor. So
go ahead, Tim.
My question is, when would you as a staff planning member need to know if it's a go or no go situation for the golf tournament?
Yeah, I mean, certainly a golf tournament takes a lot of planning and a lot of time and effort required for sponsorship opportunities. So, at this time last year, we'd already sort of been selecting the venue and narrowing it down and really planning to move ahead. So I think come March, when we come to the committee in March with an update, we're going to have to solidify whether or not this is going to be moving forward and start working from there.
Okay, thanks.
Good morning, members of the committee. Last year, as you may remember, we had to cancel our annual youth fish camps due to COVID, of course. However, this year we are hopeful that it's being an outdoor event, we may be able to proceed this year in 2021, all dependent, of course, on public health guidelines at the time. And we will be bringing a report back to the committee next month for consideration on this.
Any questions for Karen? Okay, next slide.
So an update on the City of Ottawa ash tree replacement program, a summary, I guess, for last year. As you'll see, we fully allocated our funding in early December. We had a total of 730 trees removed and replaced, our highest to date. Over $191,000 was allocated to 108 projects last year. And since the beginning of the program in 2018, we have removed and replaced a total of 1,793 trees. And I had to add this photo because it's one of the most interesting submitted photos that we've received of a replacement tree for the program, timely for Christmas, of course. So that's from a replacement in Orleans. I'll also mention that Cheyenne from our forestry team will be leaving in March for a year on a maternity leave. And as such, Kelsey and I will be supporting her in some of her grant-related stewardship tasks, including the Managed Forest Tax Incentive Program and Woodlot Advisory Grant Program this year. The type of synergy working between departments helps blend stewardship and outreach work together.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay, sorry, Kelsey.
All right, so this is just a list of a few of our virtual meetings that we have coming up. So last night was the first Natural Heritage Study public meeting for residents of SDNG. And then tonight is the second meeting for UCPR. We have the Flood Forecasting and Warning Info Session coming up on March 3rd. The Eastern Ontario First Nations Working Group is March 9th. The Logging Contractors meeting on April 1st. And then we're hoping to host a virtual Municipal Information Day in April.
Question about the meeting tonight. Will it be in English or French or both?
John?
Great question, Bill. It'll be in English primarily. There'll be a few probably French remarks from me, but most of the presentation will be in English.
Any other questions for Kelsey?
I think if I can add one thing, it's that, we're really looking forward to a Municipal Information Day. It just didn't work out with timing last year, the emergency order coming, 2 weeks before an in-person event that we'd already planned. But we're very hopeful that we can put together an online version this year, and we see a lot of value in Municipal Information Day. So we are really looking forward to it, and it probably will be one of the more larger and significant endeavors that our staff have to work on.
Okay, Tom, I saw your hand.
If I could add as well, Madam Chair, that event has been well planned, well orchestrated, and well organized, and has been really well attended. And the increase in attendance over the last few years that has been put forth shows that the value of it. So well done, and may it go well.
Yeah, Tom, I saw your hand too. Thank you, Bill.
No, I just wanted to comment on last night's meeting. I did sit in on it. I was quite impressed with the smooth functioning of the meeting and the, very, very much information and good questions actually from the audience and the smooth technical functioning. It was great. Overall, 75 people at one point were sitting in. On a cold winter night in the middle of winter, you couldn't get that kind of numbers in a reality meeting. So I found it quite well done.
Thank you for your comments. Kelsey, do you want to?
I think we'll actually leave at the end of our presentation. We included a few updates on the NHS project, so it's pretty timely that we've got a good segue there, and I'll leave it to Taylor to share a few remarks.
Good job, Tom.
John, feel free to add your comments as needed throughout these remarks as well, because you've been very involved with this project, as have I. So if you didn't hear, and I'm sure most of you have heard, that we've been undertaking a natural heritage study on behalf of the United Counties of Prescott and Russell and Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry, also in partnership with the Raisin Region Conservation Authority. So these NHS mapping updates, if approved by the counties, would be included in county official plans to protect our local environment and strengthen the local landscape as we do see increased development pressures across Eastern Ontario. Last night was our first public meeting, as Kelsey pointed out, at 7 p.m. on YouTube for residents within STNG. Tonight's meeting will be again on YouTube for residents in United Counties of Prescott and Russell. Here is the draft NHS maps that we did work with our team members on GIS teams and planning and approvals to develop. Here we have core natural areas interconnected with linkage natural areas. And John, if you wanted to add a few words to this map in terms of the methodology behind it, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, sure. I know a few committee members are keen on this project, and watching the public meeting will hopefully help. But certainly what we were aiming to do here was using the existing features that were on the landscape, map some core significant natural areas. And these are areas that we're hoping over the long term that between county, municipalities, conservation authorities, and people that we're going to be able to protect and make sure they're still here in 500 years. And so as part of this process, we needed to select big regional cores that were significant, either in habitat or in protection. We needed some level of protection to exist already. Most of these areas are provincially significant wetlands, areas of natural and scientific interest, and a co-benefit, which was really important for us, is we wanted to make sure that the core natural areas we were selecting were largely already in the public trust. I hope, oh, perfect, good segue. And on this slide, you can see all of the areas that are already publicly owned. So those kind of lighter green squares on the map. And this layer includes lands owned by us, owned by the counties, owned by Ducks Unlimited, Nature Conservancy of Canada, Crown Land, anyone that forms part of the public trust we included. So it paints a pretty good picture of the existing features on the landscape that we're hoping to protect. And part of that GIS exercise that we explained last night, and we'll explain again tonight, is how we make sure that these features remain connected by building linkages between them. And again, these linkages need to exist already. They need to be movement corridors that are already used by wildlife. And we need to work together to do our best to make sure that we can keep them there for future generations.
Thank you. I see Charles first, and then Tom, and then Bill.
Yeah, John, knowing, and I'm just to give you a little bit of background, of course, the Taywin development in Ottawa proposed by the Algonquins of Ontario and the Antaggart is certainly in the news recently, but it brings up a question. Are these areas currently in the official plans of the municipalities, the respective municipalities at both tiers that will assist in their protection, or is that something that will have to be done in the normal course of the updates of municipal official plans?
Great question, Charles. On the Taywin lands development, certainly our staff are involved in that file and will be involved in that file as it moves forward. It's going to be not only interesting, but a big development file for us to work through in the coming years. Regarding your question on this, I mean, great one. There's several different ways our municipalities can do it. Right now, both counties have natural heritage features identified in their official plans, but they did not complete a comprehensive study like this when they updated their last official plan, which is why we're doing this project. There are several different ways that this mapping could be included in zoning, either through natural heritage designations or other zoning that can help protect these features. Like I said before, if it's a PSW or an ANSI, it already has those protections, but it needs to be spelled out in our official plan. So as part of this project, once it's done, our counties will need to update their official plans to include these maps, include those schedules, and update those policies. And so each county is probably going to do it through a different approach. Prescott Russell has an upcoming official plan update, so they'll be able to include this when they update their official plan. SDNG is likely going to do official plan amendments for each municipality to update it solely for the purpose of NHS. So each county has a different approach, but Charles, both of them will require that this is included in their zoning.
Okay. Thank you, Charles. Okay, Tom, and then Bill, and then Doug.
My hand's not up, at least not on purpose, Madam Chair.
Okay, no problem. Okay, Bill, and then Doug. Bill Small.
Bill, you're muted. Sorry, Bill.
Can we, is he?
Okay, I think I'm on now. I apologize for that. I wanted to officially support the comments that Tom made about how well the presentation was done last night. And the question I had was, and the suggestion is that if anyone didn't see it last night, and it's not, I don't think, limited to PNR, and I think also some of the information is kind of generic to the whole area. So if people that are listening in or are members of this committee wish to see it tonight, I think they could. Is that not correct, John?
Of course, yeah.
Doug?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a question, John. In regard to the T1 land, did you say that South Nation had been involved in the sort of the preamble that's taken place to this date?
Good question. I should be more clear on that. That was because it was a council decision. We haven't been involved in a pre-consultation for that development, but the city staff have engaged us now, and we will be working with them on this file moving forward.
Okay, thanks very much.
And I'll just
Okay,
end if I can. I've got just one quick slide, and I think Taylor was going to speak to us on some of the different products that he's helped create to support this project.
Sure, thanks, John. So we have been busy developing new public engagement tools developed to support the NHS study. Because in essence, this is also a public engagement exercise. It is a planning one, but it is also a public engagement one. And we do need to hear from the feedback from the public to provide to the counties to help update the official plans. So we did create those draft NHS maps, which you've seen on the last slides, and we worked very close with our GIS team and graphic designers to create those maps. We also created an interactive ArcGIS story map. I'm not sure if any of you have had the opportunity to navigate through it, but it is quite fun to go through. Lots of pictures and stories and information on the natural heritage study. There is a Survey 123 tool that we developed to report wildlife sightings to help inform those local corridors and linkages. So that works with your smartphone, your desktop, your tablet. It's very easy to use. We're asking people to report sightings specifically of moose and fishers, which are the keystone species included in NHS planning according to the province, but also sightings of turtles, bees, and beavers and other wildlife that would benefit from a strong, healthy natural heritage system. We also developed a policy framework document, public feedback forms, meeting request forms to meet with certain special interests and stakeholder groups, and of course a frequently asked questions document to help people understand more about the project. So I would encourage committee members, if they feel inclined to visit our website at nation.on.ca/NHS to view all these products. They're quite intuitive and really lend a lot of information to the project. Here's a brief video that was actually produced by our friends at the SDG counties on the natural heritage system. It features staff from both SNC and RRCA and SDG and UCPR out at various natural locations throughout the watershed, talking a little bit more about the natural heritage study. John, I don't know if you do want to play this video. It's a little bit longer than the others, and there are some technical glitches, but if you'd like to, go ahead.
I'll click play and then we'll move on if that's okay. Again, if you're watching it on my feed, you'll be able to see it, but if not, just click that red button, hit play. And I'll end it there, guys. And if I can, I really do. I know Allison McDonald's not on the video, but this has been a really big project for her to lead. I think it's near and dear and close to her heart, especially being a former county planner, working on the last official plan for SDNG. And I think Allison's done a phenomenal job at bringing people together to work on this collaborative. And I think especially it being a recommendation from our Forest Conservation Initiative in our last working group, it really is great to see some of these recommendations coming back into the fold and hopefully will bring us much success in years to come.
Okay.
I'll turn it back to you, Chair Taylor.
Okay, so the next item is approval of the committee, communications committee meetings of September 9th and September 28th, 2020. So do I have a mover to? I see Byron and Charles. So moved by Byron, seconded by Charles. The members approve the Communications Committee meeting minutes of September 9th and 28th as submitted. Any comments? Anyone opposed? I take it all are in favor then? And passed. So we're moving into new business. We'll start with Kelsey.
All right, so the first report we have for you now is the update on the 2020 conservation area visitors. So we put together a report with some stats of the 2020 conservation areas usage. 2020 was a year of record setting for conservation area usage with over 177,440 recorded visitors, with 50,000 of those visitors just coming from March to June, kind of at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, looking for something that they were able to do safely with their families. But with so many visitors, we did see an increase in litter, property damage, and vandalism. So with that, we had SNC staff went out and did complete a few more extra park runs throughout the week and on the weekend. We are doing that now as well, with seeing winter usage so high. So the top 5 parks that were visited in 2020 were Tweed and Burton and Russell, Jessup's Falls, High Falls, and Cass Bridge. So we also plan to take a more in-depth report with the conservation area usage to the board in March.
Okay. Any questions for Kelsey? Okay, I don't see any. Go ahead.
I think we'll need a mover and a seconder, Peggy, to receive this report.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry, Kelsey. So I need a mover and a seconder for the recommendation that the Communications Committee receive and file the 2020 Conservation Area Visitor Report Summary, and further that the Communications Committee direct staff to create an annual Conservation Area Monitoring Report for the Board of Directors. Moved by Jerry, seconded by Tim. Anyone opposed, which is the easiest thing to see? I don't see any hands up for opposed. All in favor? And I'm assuming all's in favor. There we're seeing a few hands. Passed there. Sorry. Kelsey. My apologies, my dear. Where are we here? We're at Taylor.
Chair Taylor, if we can, let's grab a mover and a seconder before we hear the staff update.
Fair enough. Thank you, John. So we need a mover and a seconder for the update. From here, the recommendation is the Communications Committee receive and file an update on the 2020 Art for Trees online art auction, and further that the Communications Committee approve allocating funds raised from the 2020 Art for Trees online auction to the 2021 Community Free Tree giveaways. I think the first hand I saw was Tom's for a mover and Byron's for a seconder. Okay, anyone opposed to this?
Oh, we'll hear the staff update from Taylor first and then discussion.
Okay, I'm getting behind and ahead all at the same time here.
So we'll let Taylor speak to it and then we'll take discussion from members.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair Taylor. So as you may recall, following committee approval to cancel the 2020 annual Friends of SNC Golf Tournament due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the committee did approve SNC hosting an online fundraising art auction last fall to support community tree planting initiatives. The Art for Trees online silent art auction ran from October 8th to October 29th, 2020, using the free website 32auctions.com. The auction overall, I think, was a success. The webpage received nearly 20,000 visitors from September to November. 125 participants placed 244 bids on 33 items donated by local artists, photographers, and artisans, raising a total of nearly $6,500 for community tree giveaways. SNC distributed charitable receipts to participants and donors as appropriate and delivered thank you baskets to all donors with honey and maple syrup produced on SNC community lands. The feedback received from local artists was very positive who did participate in the auction, and we received lots of great praise from them for the inclusion and the professionalism that we placed within this auction. So SNC is now seeking committee approval to direct the auction funds raised towards this year's community free tree giveaways in spring 2021 in each of SNC's member municipalities.
Okay, so I see Bill has a question. Have to unmute Bill.
Remembered, thank you. The fourth paragraph, just double checking that this means that all of the works of art were valued and that the receipt or donation receipt or charitable receipt was given for the amount that it was valued at. Is that the idea?
That's correct, Bill. So according to the CRA, we have to do our due diligence as the ones hosting the auction to make sure that artwork is appraised appropriately and that charitable receipts reflect those appraisal values. So we actually partnered with a local art gallery in Cornwall, and they came to the office one day safely following COVID protocols to professionally appraise every single piece of artwork, and those prices are reflected on the donation receipts that we gave, and those prices were also reflected online for the auction as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Taylor? Okay, so we have a vote then, please. Anyone in favor? See if I can catch the hands here. Anyone opposed? Okay, that one is carried. So the next recommendation is, this is Karen's, is Karen there? Yeah. So we have a recommendation that the Communications Committee receive and file the Ottawa and St. Lawrence River virtual field trip report. Do I have a mover? Murray, seconded by?
I see Lawrence.
Oh, do you? Thank you, Lawrence. And Karen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My report is found on page 15. We're excited to have been selected in partnership with the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks to create and lead a virtual field trip to bring grades 8 through 10 students on a tour of the Ottawa and St. Lawrence rivers and highlight the connection to the Great Lakes. Our project work will occur between January and March of this year. Existing partnerships with school boards will be leveraged to support implementation. Teachers will provide content review and ensure curriculum alignment support as well. Specific project deliverables include writing a script, selecting visual media, recording and editing video content, creating and piloting the new virtual field trip, and releasing and promoting the final product to school boards and partner organizations. We are committed to producing this product in French following the project deadline of March 31st. And the virtual field trip will support our suite of environmental outreach programming and will also include Indigenous knowledge sharing.
Any questions for Karen? Is this similar to the summit that John attended? What was that, 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah. This is definitely building on that project we did in 2017 for the St. Lawrence River. We had really great success, as you guys know, with that St. Lawrence River Student Summit. This is going to be based on a similar model, but will be delivered only in classroom. So we're really looking forward to it. It is a really quick turnaround. The province is really looking forward to spending the money by March 31st and getting these videos into classrooms as soon as possible, with students being, still possibly and partially, learning from home. But this hopefully will complement our programs. This will be something that will be shared and watched by hopefully every single student in grade 7 to 9 throughout our entire jurisdiction. So it's a really big undertaking. It's going to be a big effort, but I think it's going to provide us with some really great long-term sustainability, targets. Having students being able to watch this video and participate in these modules year over year is going to help get and transfer a lot of good environmental and local knowledge into our students. So we're really, if my voice can't communicate that properly, we really are excited. Like, this is going to be a really great thing for us to work on.
Okay, I see Bill's hand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm double checking that I know it's for schools and school boards, but will committee members and board members be able to somehow review it and see it?
Yeah, great question, Bill. Of course, obviously with the short timeline, it's going to be very difficult to have it production ready by March, but we're committed to making it happen. And we anticipate that we'll be able to refine it as time goes on. We probably won't have it ready for our next committee meeting in March. It's a little too early for us to have a final product. But I think at that point, Karen's hoping to have our teacher volunteers reviewing it, editing it and trying to provide those curriculum, touch points for us to consider. And then hopefully after March, we'll be able to share it broadly with our committee members. And of course, we welcome feedback and looking forward to refine it in future years and hopefully taking some summer photos and summer videos to complement it as well. It's a little bleak outside sometimes on the average winter day.
Thank you for that, and that I think will be great. I also think it'll be really good to have teacher and school board input on this, and being able to use that as we develop it and move it forward. I really think that's an important part of the program.
Thank you, Bill. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none opposed, well, is carried. The next item is Karen again. And this is a recommendation that the Communications Committee approve South Nation Conservation's revised program delivery for the 2021 Stream of Dreams Community Art and Environmental Education Program. And further, that the Communications Committee recommend that the Board of Directors approve the updated program fee of $15 per participant. Do I have a mover for discussion? Byron, do I have a seconder? Jerry. And Karen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This report is found on pages 16 through 18. As you know, Stream of Dreams is a popular educational program for us. And since 2016, we have delivered this program in 9 schools to over 2,000 participants. Last spring, you might remember we had to postpone 4 programs that we had confirmed, excuse me, through the Ottawa Carleton District School Board and the Upper Canada District School Board due to COVID-19. And currently, Ontario's Guide to Reopening Ontario Schools states that visitors are restricted in schools and field trips are not allowed. As we're unsure as to how long this might last, we didn't want to miss another year of the Stream of Dreams programming, watch it go by. So we have corresponded with the founders of the Stream of Dreams program in BC. And as such, we present to you the following revised programming layouts for both in-person and new virtual program delivery. So I won't read through each of them, but you will note that the revised in-person delivery includes some sanitation measures in accordance with public health guidelines, as well as reduced staff contact with students, classrooms, and program materials. You'll note as well for the new virtual program delivery, we've laid out how we will provide programming and mural design to schools interested in virtual programs. In the past, we had set the price at $10 per person based on funding support received from several different funders who had supported the program since 2016. Those funders include the Source Water Protection Program, Great Lakes Guardian Community Fund, as well as TD Friends of the Environment Foundation. Now, many other CAs who deliver this program are currently charging between $15 and $25 per person. So following the recommendation of the Stream of Dreams founders in BC And based on the revised program delivery methods outlined and the increased costs associated, staff are recommending the cost for the new virtual program in a box be set at $15 per participant. And to break that down, that would be $10 for the education and $5 for the wooden fish. Should any future funding become available for the program, we will base fee reductions appropriately based on financial support available at that time. And as always, we'll continue to work with school boards and individual schools to maintain program interest and tentatively schedule future programming. We are hopeful for the opportunity to deliver some of this revised programming in the upcoming fall season.
Okay. Any questions for Karen? Doug?
Thank you. I just, I always in the past have put in a thought about getting schools involved in Ottawa. Now, I know we did one at Finley Creek, but my heart lies in Osgoode Ward. So, and I just wonder if when you're looking at the schools, if you could take a look at the overall map of where these projects have been given in the past, and hopefully we could at least promote them in the schools within Osgoode Ward.
Doug, you'll be happy to know that I did receive some correspondence from a school in Osgoode, and we have them on the waiting list and are looking to get them involved as soon as possible following these procedures and COVID public health guidelines.
I'll be smiling the rest of the day. And also, Castor Valley Elementary School, they've expressed interest before. So perhaps if you wouldn't mind just reaching out to them, because they have expressed interest a couple of years ago. And so thanks very much for that.
Sure.
Bill?
I wanted to comment too, Karen, and note that obviously our next three schools, reserve, deposits paid, are all in the city of Ottawa. So definitely looking forward to moving some of the programming up there once it's safe.
Bill, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you. I support what's been said by both John and Doug, but one of our roles as representatives of this committee, I believe, is to make sure that we're in contact with schools and people in our area, encouraging them to reach out as well. I think the staff, and I'm supportive of our staff, that they do a heck of a job of getting information out to the various areas, but I think we have a role there as well with being in touch with the people that we're close to and in our own areas, encouraging them to get involved and move forward. So I think this is dual.
Okay, Murray?
Yes, Madam Chair. I'd like to comment on the fee for the program. We've been hearing a lot about how people from poorer areas are coping less well during the COVID situation. And I think we want to review that fee to make sure we're not blocking out people from smaller rural schools where the income is not as high as you'll find with families in the city. So I don't suggest we debate the fee now, but I suggest staff look at that and bring it back to us in March, whether they might consider raising the fee and using part of that to subsidize poorer schools. Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment on that if I can, Karen, and through you, Madam Chair. Like Murray, we share the same concern, and at least with this program, we've got a long waiting list, and it's challenging to get through with the resources we have. But certainly with other programs, you know, Maple, for example, you know, we definitely do our best to make it as cost effective and accessible as possible. Something we're going to have to bring back later in this year as the regulations come into force for the new CA Act changes. We'll have to be very clear and precise in our program fees as it pertains to education programs. The province is very clear that education must be a cost recovered program that conservation authorities offer. We cannot subsidize the cost of education programs through general levy or other CA subsidies. So something we'll have to look very carefully at. I'll note I was on, I think it was yesterday, a provincial call with an update on CA education programs. And the high level summary from there, 34 out of the 36 CAs deliver education programs, whether through interpretive centers or programs like this in school or in parks. And the average cost, if you take all of the programs and all of the fees throughout the 34 conservation authorities, the average cost charged from CAs to schools is $33 per student. So we certainly have some of the most cost-effective, we believe, reasonable fees in the province. We have been charging the lowest fee for the Stream of Dreams program in the entire country, but we're very proud of that. We really wanted, like you, Marie, to make it as accessible as possible, and especially in the early years of a program, we felt it very important to keep the fee down. At this time, $15 per participant, we believe would be reasonable, and we believe it will be able to demonstrate that it's cost recovered. But we're going to have to bring a report back later in the year, Marie, and do this analysis for all of our programs and hopefully have a healthy debate and discussion with committee members. So probably not at the March meeting, but we're going to have to commit to that later in the year.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, guys. So do I have any other questions? All in favor? Anyone opposed? I don't think is that an opposition hand that's up? Okay. So I saw more in favor hands than I see opposition hands. So it's approved.
Madam Chair,
And I would suggest we take
if I could interrupt, Madam Chair.
Oh, sorry.
I couldn't get my damn hand to go up, excuse me. But I wanted to add, as a person that was involved in education last century for 37 years, I think that when some of the schools call and when some of them are asking about the program and they wonder about the price and how they could best meet it, perhaps there's a place for suggesting to them that they look into fundraising or what can they do in their schools to help. Because I know in the way back in that distant past, we had different programs in the schools that the parents and the advisory committees and the teachers actually had events that would raise dollars to help support and subsidize the classes that were coming. So I think that it is a problem. It is expensive. I agree with what was said, but I think there are ways to make suggestions and instigate people to be innovative.
Good point.
Certainly.
Thank you, Bill.
Do you mind, Madam Chair, if I make a quick comment on that before we move on?
Sure, go ahead.
And just that, and we've talked about this in the past, but I want to make it clear, especially for anyone that's listening, we in all of the programs we deliver today, we haven't seen this fee remitted to parents, right? We do in some way, shape, or form often see part of this fee remitted to students, but largely not. I think of the example in Roxborough and Avonmore. We had a parent council that had several, as Bill mentioned, fundraising events, a spaghetti supper, a couple of different things that they were able to help fundraise for to reduce these costs. And I think of the programs in Ottawa, especially Finley Creek, the board felt that that project was very important and they wanted to pay for it in its entirety. So there are definitely different ways to bring this cost down, to share the cost. And certainly we're looking to school boards to foot some of this bill if they see the value in it, and support from our parent teacher councils to help fundraise.
I see Cindy's hand.
Yeah, just to add to that, unfortunately, though, we also have to remember that it's so difficult for schools to hold any kind of fundraiser right now with COVID, because they can't do their, holly carnivals and the things that they've done every year. They, like, parents can't even barely step foot in the school. So that's just, something to keep in mind with COVID right now. But hopefully things will open up and we'll be able to see this. I'm totally 100% supportive of this program, as you know.
Okay, so we've had a vote on this. I'm just going to suggest we take a little bit of a break here. We've been going for an hour and 15 minutes. So if we can take, say, 5 minutes, come back, it's 10:12, come back around, 10:20. Everybody okay with that? And then Taylor will be up next, okay?
All right, we'll approve a recess by consensus, Madam Chair, and we'll come back at 10:20.
Okay, is everyone good? Not seeing anybody saying no. And Cindy's already left for washroom break, so there you
Some people running away. Yeah. Okay, we'll be right back, everybody.
just, oh, there's Kelsey. How you doing, Kelsey?
I'm good. How are you, Cindy?
Good.
Good.
You still very busy, I'm sure.
Yeah. Feels like it just keeps getting busier and busier. How are things with
Kelsey,
you? Yes.
it's Jerry here. Thank you very much for those baskets. That
No
that
problem.
was great.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, they were nice. You guys did a good job on that.
Good. Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, my favorite. I was out of jam. I was out of honey.
Oh, perfect. All stocked up.
Yeah, it's like, wow.
One thing that you may have done was let us know where we can replenish that.
Might be able to help you out.
Yeah.
It's Bill. I have a question of John or someone that's controlling the or in charge of the controls there. I'm able to see the initials, and if I hit them, I'm able to see the name of about 15 people. But there are 3 people that just says 3 others on. Are you able to tell us who those are? I know one is Murray, but I just wondered who the other 3 were, and are they?
Yeah, on my screen it shows 18 meeting participants between staff and committee members, and then I see the other ones on my screen anyways are those that declined or aren't able to join today.
Okay, but I have 18 listed as being on, 15 as bubbles and initials, and 3 just says 3 others. Do you know who those 3 others are?
Well, that's odd. On my 18, I see names for everyone.
Okay.
I could read them off if you'd like.
No, but let me ask a question. The
Sure.
ones that I don't know about are Karen, Gary, Jerry, and Fran. Are they on now?
Everyone except Fran is on. I think Gary,
you.
you're here as well. If maybe you want to say hi. Oh, I saw he just remuted himself. Maybe he's not ready.
Okay, thank you. That helps me.
Okay, a quick comment too. If you want to toggle between the video view and the presentation view, you can just click on the bottom of your screen. You should see like our little icons. Either you'll see our initials or our videos. But if you just click there, you can toggle between seeing everyone's video and seeing the presentation if you're looking to see some engagement.
Okay, is everybody back? And it looks like everybody is back in the room. And so we can carry on here with Taylor. This is a recommendation that the Communications Committee approves South Nation Conservation's updated visual identity guidelines. Do I have a mover for this? Cindy, seconded by, I can't see a hand. Oh, there we go. Gary. And Taylor.
And Gary. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep, what?
So Taylor, I thought your hand was up to second that.
My hand was up. Can you see
Okay,
me?
so it's moved by Cindy and seconded by Gary, and Taylor is on deck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my report, welcome back, and my report is found on page 19 of the agenda package. And I would just like to remind anybody who maybe isn't muted just to go ahead and mute themselves if you don't mind. I'm getting some feedback and breathing sounds in the microphone. Thank you. So staff have recently updated South Nation Conservation's visual identity guideline, or branding guideline, as some people refer to it, to help define how and when SNC's corporate brand should be appropriately used in marketing, promotional, and corporate products. So The identity guideline is actually attached below my report as well, so feel free to sift through it as we're speaking here.
I
This
just want to
document-
pause, Taylor, if I can. Somebody
Okay, go
took
ahead, John.
control of my screen.
Oh,
I'm just going to take that back.
I hope it wasn't me.
It is a committee member, but I'm hoping if it was you, you're going to get prompted on your screen to give me back control. So it'll be on the top bar where that red leave button is. Don't click that one. But a few to the left, you'll see
I
an
have
option
something
to
that
give me
says-
control. Thank
No.
you.
Mine said request control. I didn't
Okay.
want it.
Just give me a second
I-
here.
Don't know what I did, guys, if anything.
Just stand by. We'll get this back up in a second. But Taylor, I think you can go ahead and speak while I get this
Okay.
ready. Sorry.
Thanks, John. No problem. So the document, which is attached in the agenda package just below the this report, if you wanted to sift through while we're speaking, the document provides clear standards for content creators, including graphic designers, community partners, anybody making a poster or a social media icon. Gives them direction on corporate logo usage, color palettes, corporate color palettes, fonts, illustrations, and icons that adhere to our corporate guidelines and standards. A well-developed style guide is an essential tool for maintaining a strong and consistent brand identity. S&C's previous guide was drafted in 2013 by TD Graham and Associates. So upon approval, this guide will be followed for the development of all S&C communications and marketing products and will be shared with staff and community partners as needed. And as I mentioned, the guideline is attached, so feel free to go through it and read some of the direction that we provide to content creators on how and when to use our logo appropriately, some of our corporate fonts and colors and illustrations, just to maintain a strong brand identity throughout a variety of products, especially as we're dealing with some of our community partners through who host canoe and kayak races, etc. There's often lots of varying posters that are created for those, so it's good just to maintain strong branding and consistent branding throughout all of those products.
I'm hoping too, Madam Chair, that everyone has the guide in front of them and they've had a chance to go through it. If there are any questions, we can share our screens and put the document up on the presentation as well.
It is very extensive. Gary has a question. Gary Barton, go ahead.
No, I just want to make a comment. I don't know if this is all Taylor's work or whatever, but that report was very well done.
Yeah,
Thank
it is.
Thanks, Gary.
Any other questions, Murray? And then Murray and then Charles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the section that deals with things like agendas for the board and for committees, there's a section at the bottom for policy and policy documentation. And generally when that's filled out, it focuses mainly on the financial side. Is it in the budget, or is it funded somewhere else? From our point of view as a committee, I think we need a section of that SSD policy to say what's our conservation policy and what's the approval for it and what's the financial authority or whatever. Because if we only have the financial side, that says conservation comes second to financial controls. And I think that's a bad picture to be putting forth to the public. So I just recommend that to Taylor to see if there's some way he can get that included in the package so everybody in the organization is looking both at our conservation policy and our financial policy. Thank you.
Thanks, Murray. And I'm actually going to defer to John on questions regarding some of our corporate policies included in board reports.
Thanks, Taylor. And whenever possible, Murray, and most committee members through you, Madam Chair, know this, that we do our best to include any board approved policies that are relevant to the topic or the decision that's being made on that report package. I'll draw your attention to our current package. Obviously, Taylor's report is on page 19. With respect to this report, the policy that he's quoting is the purchasing policy, as we needed to use some outside support to design some of these graphics. If you look up ahead to page 15 on Karen's report, you'll see that the purchasing policy is referenced, health and safety policy. The report previously on page 14 made by Taylor on the art auction, we needed to reference the fundraising policy, which was board approved and directs much of how we manage our receipting. So whenever possible, we link these documents up, but we must be sure to only include board approved policies for public consumption and reference them whenever possible. But I think, Murray, you've made this point a few times, so we will take it back and see what we can do to make that area more predominant and make sure that it's readily accessible on all reports.
I think it's also important to remember that we are funded by our municipal partners, and the municipal tax base is where the money comes from. And so municipalities are rightly so always trying to keep costs down, yet attain the goals. And I think it's very important that the South Nation remain fiscally responsible to the taxpayers, as well as responsible to the purpose and mission of the Conservation Authority. But we cannot overtax our ratepayers, in my personal view. So anyway, just a reminder that that's where the money is coming from. I see Charles's hand is up.
Yes. Question, is there a problem with people misusing the visual identity of SNC? And if so, how is it policed?
Yeah, that's a great question, Charles. So as I said before, especially when we start getting involved in various community events with several community partners, and there's lots of different content creators, making posters and social media posts. We do frequently see that the logo is misused. It could be a low resolution logo file, or it's placed, on top of a busy background, and it just creates confusing branding that isn't consistent with the standards that we've set for ourselves. So usually when that's the case, we do try to get involved and work with our community partners to offer our support and our services to draft things like posters and social media posts on their behalf. That is one of the benefits of working with us, is that we do provide some strong support for those types of programs. So that's sort of how it's policed in that sense. And we're certainly hoping that this identity guide is going to help sort of reduce some of that policing moving forward, so to speak.
And Taylor, if I might add as well, something that is also important is use of that logo, right? So often partners or people working on different projects may want to include our logo on their report. And that logo to us means a lot. It means a lot to our residents. It means a big deal for our municipalities. And we do have to protect the brand, but also make sure that when our logo is applied to something, that we approve of that message, that our board approves of that message, that our ratepayers are comfortable with that message as well. And often we have to refer to board approved policies to make sure it's within our realm of expertise, but that's something else that we struggle with. It is challenging, especially in partner projects, to make sure that when our logo is applied, that we did work on that we are comfortable with that, and that we do support it. And that's the other piece of this puzzle as well, that sometimes is a little more challenging. All artwork must be approved by us. You cannot simply take our logo, apply it to a poster, a report, even as something simple as a Facebook post. It doesn't matter. That logo means a lot to people, and it's our job to protect it. And largely most people, they want to do the right thing. They want to use our logo because it's something good that's going to benefit the environment and the community. But we have to do our part to approve the use of every single logo instance. And that's something we do day in, day out. And yeah, it's a challenge.
I see Jerry's hand is up. Jerry?
I think he's just unmuting
Yes,
himself.
are you, is the logo registered as a trademark?
Yes, it is.
Good.
Okay.
That was
So of
it.
course we have protections that way, right? We have to make sure that we're protecting that trademark.
Oh, yeah, and the only way you can do that is by lawsuit.
Yeah.
Okay, so any other comments on this before I call the vote? All in favor? Okay, opposed if any? All right, And moving on then to Karen. I think, yes,
Thanks, Madam-
Karen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My report is on.
Karen and Madam Chair, if we may, can
Yeah,
we get
let
a
me
mover
read
to
that
hear
out.
this?
Yes,
Thank you.
sorry, my bad again. Here we go. The recommendation for the Maple Education Program. Communications Committee approved the revised Maple Education Outreach Initiatives and recommends that the Board of Directors approve postponing the on-site tours for the 2021 Maple Education Program at the Oshman Forest Conservation Area. Do I have a mover? Tom, seconder. Charles. Okay, Karen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My report is on pages 35 and 36. Our popular flagship maple syrup education program delivered its 18th year in 2019 at our new program venue located at the Oshman Forest Conservation Area. Last year in 2020, we had to postpone our on-site program delivery again due to COVID-19. Given the ongoing pandemic, school closures, field trip restrictions, health guidelines, staff will not be proceeding with on-site programming tours this year to ensure the safety of staff, students, and teachers. In lieu of on-site programming, we are recommending the following revisions to the 2021 Maple program. Staff will create a new Maple Education teaser video that will be shared online and with school boards and teachers to promote maple syrup education and demonstration. The video will take students on a tour of the Oshman Forest and include some teachable moments from our programming. It will also include educational programming, educational content, for students, while leaving enough to the imagination to entice people to get out and safely participate, if possible, in self-guided tours at maple syrup demo sites. Now, depending on the public health restrictions in place, mid-March and early April, we do plan to host 2 Maple weekend day events and promote any initiatives planned by the Eastern Chapter of the Ontario Maple Syrup Producers Association. These days will be held on the weekend. They will occur at the Oshman Forest in Ormond. They will feature staff on site to welcome the public, offer promotional and educational information, some warm drinks to warm people up, and at the same time serve as a means of ensuring public health regulations are respected, so no overcrowding and things like that. Further, we'll provide a social media campaign to promote the Maple Weekend days, to promote future on-site educational programming, as well as the self-guided bilingual Maple Education interpretive trail that is existing there. So nobody doesn't stop anybody from visiting that per se at the Oshman Forest. Following this committee meeting, we will communicate updated programming plans to schools and share details on our sweet new video. And we will continue to offer our Maple Education kit to interested teachers, encourage schools to follow us on social media for details on our Maple Education social media campaign, and remind schools that we really do look forward to hosting them back on site in the Oshman Forest in person for the 2022 Maple Education season, of course, pending any COVID health restrictions at that time.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Any questions for Karen? Not seeing any. All in favor? Okay, anyone opposed? All right, carried. So the next is the communications with Kelsey. It is a recommendation that the Communications Committee receive and file the update on the 2020 Community Environmental Grants Program, and further that the Communications Committee recommend that the Board of Directors approve amendments to the Community Environmental Grants Program to allow applications for certain community environmental projects in 2021. And do I have a mover for discussion purposes? Byron, seconder, Murray. Okay, Kelsey.
All right, thank you. So in 2020, the committee approved temporary program amendments to allow funds to be directed to community tree planting during the COVID-19 pandemic, as no events were taking place last year. All funds were distributed, planting over 60 large native trees throughout our watershed. At this point, it's still unknown whether community events will take place throughout the year or not. So staff recommend amending the guidelines to accommodate one of the following environmental initiatives. So the community environmental event, so funding up to $300 to help host a community event. The tree and shrub planting, funding up to $300 to help plant a native caliper-sized tree or several potted stock trees or shrubs in a public community space. Or the community garden, funding up to $300 to help create or upgrade a community garden in a public community space. So SNC staff will provide support to tree planting projects by providing advice on species, planting locations, and recommending available stock. So this update will offer additional funding categories to those that we already have listed in our guidelines, which you'll see on the application form on pages 39 and 40.
Kelsey, if you can you comment on, obviously when we made this amendment last year, it was a temporary amendment. We wanted to bring it back for discussion. It was something that I think the committee and staff both felt was important to allow the funds to go ahead and support good community environmental projects. Can you give an update on the level of effort that was required to get all those shovels in the ground in a matter of, months and plant all those trees before we open it up for discussion?
Yeah, sure. So we directly supported 7 projects like you'll see there, and that included finding the trees, purchasing the trees, delivering them, and planting them for the group that submitted their application. And we sourced and purchased trees for 8 projects and provided direct funding for 4 projects. So Carly and I spent a couple of months finding trees and planting them and purchasing them for some of our groups. So that was a little bit more effort on our part as compared to whenever we helped fund events. Often we would just attend the event for a few hours that day, or sometimes they would just put up our signage. So the changes to this program are a little more work than we have had in previous years.
Okay, any questions for Kelsey? It's a lot easier to attend events, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sure you loved planting the trees, but I can just imagine how you were feeling after planting all of them.
Yeah, especially I guess everyone decided to plant trees last year, so nurseries were very low on stock. So having to find the species that they wanted specifically made it a little bit more difficult, but I think adding the tree planting option is a really good way to get those additional trees planted in the jurisdiction.
Byron?
I think you're going to see the same kind of problem this year, Kelsey, with there's going to be a lot of demand for trees as people tend to stay home. They tend to try and beautify their surroundings. So.
Yeah, I think so too.
Bill Smurl?
And the positive, Madam Chair, about having the staff involved with the planting, even though it took a lot of extra effort, is that it was extremely well done, and that was good community engagement as they met with different people from the community, as you see by the picture that's up there with the Green Gang in Chesterville. So well done, staff, and I agree it'll be basically the same this year, and it'll be well done again.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to call the vote on this. No further comments. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Not seeing any. Is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelsey. And that looked like it was the last, no, where am I here? Yeah, that looked like it was the last item on the main agenda. So we're moving to supplemental. And I just have to open that up on my iPad here. So
yeah,
it's
you'll want to
Kelsey.
open up your second package. That'll be the supplemental agenda package with the report on page 3 and 4.
Okay, so this is a recommendation that Communications Committee receive and file the 2020 social media and website overview update. And Kelsey's still with us. We have a mover, please.
Oh, yeah.
Not seeing a mover yet. Charles, and seconded by Tom. Go ahead, Kelsey.
All right, so this is just an overview of our 2020 social media stats as well as the website, and we added the newsletter in there as well. So our social media in 2020 really increased. Taylor did a great job getting lots of videos posted, the interaction with the public. So I think the stats there really show that. So for Facebook in January 2020, we had 3,199 followers, and that was increased to 4,515 as of now. Our Twitter also went up a bit from 1,190 followers to 1,294. And our Instagram really had a big jump from 721 to 1,060 followers. And then on our website, you'll see the stats there. And then we have the top 10 most visited pages throughout the year, which were our homepage, the job opportunities, find a form, the Warwick Forest Conservation Area, our main recreation page, the staff listing, our tree planting services, our maps, the Jessup's Falls Conservation Area, and then Two Creeks Conservation Area. So I think that also speaks to the report on our conservation area visitor stats, with those being some of our top visited pages on the website. And then just here are the top 5 most visited since our last report in June. So that was our homepage, job opportunities, the Warwick Forest Conservation Area, find a form, and the recreation page. And then we have the SNC Current, which is our monthly newsletter that we send out at the beginning of each month. So our subscribers also really went up compared to February of last year, where we had 831 subscribers, and now we have 2,282 people that get our newsletter every month, which I think is really great. And the open rate too is we have over half the people who are subscribed actually opening the newsletter there. And so, yeah, does anyone have any questions?
Those were great updates, Kelsey. If I can provide just a quick
huge numbers, yeah.
Huge numbers, and even just on web traffic alone, I mean, 100,000 visitors in a year is still a lot, but certainly, you know, a 25% increase on that just during the pandemic, I think speaks to people's interests. And if we had brought this report last year, you wouldn't have seen our parks listed as top pages. Certainly they received a lot of traffic, but we haven't seen them in the top 5 and top 10 most visited pages before. So really speaks to what people are looking to us for in times like this, and definitely puts an onus on us to make sure those pages are updated and enhanced in a way that can benefit our community members.
Great, very good job. Charles, question, comment?
Yeah, the question on the website, or at least backups in all of this. We had the experience in the township of Russell just in the last few days where the website was down for several days due to problems with the experienced by the provider. And there's no critical infrastructure here, but is there a program or something there that will keep you up and running when the main server goes down, so you're not down for 5 days?
Great comments, Charles. Certainly in previous years, it wasn't something that was top on our priority list. We didn't used to perform regular website updates. We used to host the server on site. Now we have our website server hosted off-site, and in the cloud, so it's more accessible. And we do weekly backups on the website. We used to do them quarterly, but we were running into some similar challenges to some of our municipal partners where, you know, either some of our website infrastructure breaks or we've got too much traffic and we've got other concerns. So now we update it every week. And I'll draw from an example this week just to kind of put that into light. We had an issue with one of our committee pages actually that was deleted. And luckily we were able to recover that from a backup and still keep that website up. So our new system, we're pretty happy with it. It makes for a seamless transition. And each quarter, we also take the website down for a full week so we can do our security updates on the website to get all those weird Microsoft surveys and random, you know, things that kind of sneak into your website sometimes as Trojan horses. So when we do that, Charles, what we do is we clone the website, we put a fake website up, and we test it before we put it up, and we leave that up on the week while we do maintenance. So we're lucky. I mean, knock on wood, we haven't had any website server issues. We've been able to keep our website up while we do this work in the background.
Any other questions on this? Okay, well, I'll just call a vote. All in favor? Okay, anyone opposed? Seeing none, it is carried. So our next meeting.
Madam Chair, if we could do a roundtable discussion first.
Usually do that. Yeah.
And if you don't mind, I'm going to stop presenting my screen just so I know we can all toggle in between videos and presentations, but just for the folks watching online and for our video recording, I'm going to take the stream off so we can see our videos as we chat, if that's okay.
Okay, I'm going to do the roundtable. If we can cover both A and B on the first round. So any community engagement things that are happening in your area, and anyone that you would like to see honored as a friend of the South Nation. If you don't want to state it online, feel free to email it to staff if you want to keep it as a surprise or whatever for the friends' comments. So I'm just going to start with who I'm seeing first on my screen, and I think it's Charles.
No comments. Thank you very much.
Okay. And then I see Cindy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, I just wanted to bring everybody's awareness to a very active group in Russell called Eco East. And you can go on their Facebook page, and they're doing lots of great projects, and they're planning on planting over 900 trees this spring in the area, and in partnership, of course, with South Nation. And they have a habitat group. They're looking at recognizing a local bird species, so that the area, and they're sort of Eco East, so it's a big area that's sort of covered. And then they have a water group, a waste management group, climate change and energy, and they're very, very active. I was elected to the board also, so just check out the page, and you'll see lots of neat things that they're doing to help protect the environment. Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy. Bill? Smurl?
And thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of things. One is I continue to have regular meetings with either by virtually, or the last couple have actually been in person at our township. And one of the things I've made it a point to do is share with them that that the South Nation is having $500 per township or per municipality for tree planting, and I've encouraged them to try to put some dollars in the budget. And the question I have is that a good thing to encourage at this stage if there are no other trees available? Will they still be able to get extra trees if that's a wish from some of the townships and their budgets?
I'll comment on that first, Kelsey. Certainly, Bill. We have remaining stock. We're definitely limited, but we are hoping, and a few townships have already expressed interest on this. If they were able to provide $500, would we be able to get more trees? And the answer is yes.
Thanks very much, John. And secondly, I've made it a point to stress with our township and encourage all of you to stress this with your townships that we're not the city of Ottawa, but the city of Ottawa has a program that you've heard described that is replacing the trees that are the ash trees that are being decimated. And I've encouraged them to consider some minor way, even if it has to be minor, of encouraging our people to get more trees in to replace the ash. And I might add that I find that it is not it's not an unbusy time right now. I'm in the phone regularly. I'm on my computer regularly, and I'm getting calls from individuals and from people interested in different parts of what we might do with the environment in South Nation. And I am on the phone to people urging them to move forward, etc. So I think that even with the close down of many of the things that are happening, I find it still a very busy time and a very good time. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Byron?
One thing, if we decide to have a summer meeting, John, we now have a beautiful covered area that has been built in Alfred Plantagenet, right beside the river, and we could possibly have a meeting there and have it catered by a local caterer.
I love that option, Byron, and was thinking that your area is due next for a good visit up north.
Excellent.
Doug? Doug Thompson?
Yeah, I don't have any, it's been a great meeting, very interesting, and I'm very pleased to join as a guest. So it's well done, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Gary? Barton? No? Jerry?
No, nothing.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Jerry Boyce?
Yes, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
I was wondering on the update of the conservation area up at Augusta Township. Has a name been decided on yet?
Great question, Jerry. We're hoping to bring back a report to the board. It'll probably be in April or May to help designate that name. We've had a chance to speak with quite a few neighbors who received, we've sent out a couple letters talking about the name and the future management of the park in that area up in Augusta. So pretty positive. We're still looking at the possibility of naming it the Mill Run Conservation Area. It still seems to be a popular fit for the neighbors. And you'll recall that that area will provide a canoe access up to the Spencerville Mill. So it's going to be that Leeds and Grenville connection that allow people to paddle from Augusta into Edwardsburg Cardinal and hopefully stop at the mill. So we're looking forward to that. The park work is still progressing, Jerry. We did finish our final report to the feds, who contributed about $30,000 to that work, which was awesome. We reported on that last week, I believe. And all we have left to do is do some site cleanup this spring and put in those signs. So we're looking at maybe May or a June opening, but we expect to bring a report back to the board in April.
Good, thank you. Murray?
Hey, thank you. Sounds good.
Murray, any comments?
Madam Chair, we mentioned earlier about conservation areas being open for the winter. Oak Valley hasn't been designated as such, but informally, one of the neighbors has plowed the road after major storms so his wife and daughter can walk and jog through the area. But it also has permitted people to come in, park on the road and visit the park as walk in. The gates are closed, so the cars can't get in, but the public is going in there on a not too busy basis, but there are people getting into the park. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
That's a good comment, Murray. And Madam Chair, if I can respond, we've had similar, concerned isn't the right word, but I'll use it. We've had similar concerns with the use of the Reevler Conservation Area, just east of Chrysler, that most people will be familiar with. That too is a site that we have not maintained in the winter in the past. With the case of Reveler, it being an open grassland habitat, the trails get very icy. It's very rocky. We can't get our groomer into that trail, so it hasn't been something that we're able to maintain in the winter. But like you, Murray, we're seeing lots of people still accessing the site, largely safely. But we've had some big concerns after snow falls, for example. I think of last week, the number of people that needed to be towed because they had driven into our closed parking lot, around our barricade, past the sign that says close, and gotten their vehicle stuck. And I think it was last Tuesday, a truck went in and got stuck, and then a tow truck went in to pull him out and got stuck. And then at one point we had 3 tow trucks pulling vehicles out in the same parking lot. So, I mean, there's lots of challenges. People want to get outside. They're looking for places to be. And, you know, I think of Oak Valley and Reveler, you know, they're nice spots, and it's reasonable for people to be able to access them. In the case of Reveler, we are going to start plowing the parking lot, and we've got someone contract to do that starting hopefully tomorrow. But we just aren't able to maintain the trail. And so we're going to put up some no winter maintenance signs, make it really clear we're not maintaining this trail, but we can reasonably maintain that parking lot. So there's some things that we can do. Obviously, people are more eager than us in some cases, but we're going to do our best to open up a few more areas because I think people are certainly looking for spaces to go.
Okay, we're going to do Tom and then Lawrence, and then we'll come back to Bill and then Cindy. Tom?
Yeah, no, I just had a question I should ask before, but I didn't get to it. It's about the art auction. It seemed like it was quite successful. Are we going to repeat that next year? Or sorry, this year?
That's a great question, Tom. Certainly, just to give some perspective as to how successful the art auction was, I think last year we raised about, not last year, in 2019, we raised about $5,000 through the golf tournament. The year before was about the same. And I think, you know, some of our more successful golf tournaments in years past, you know, we were raising upwards of $6,500, $7,000, which is what we raised this year through the art auction. So it was extremely successful, and there was lots of positive media coverage for the weeks throughout the auction, and tons of people, and you know, just 20,000 visitors on the webpage alone, and hundreds of people signing up to place bids. It was extremely successful. Now, the comments I did receive from artists, and just, you know, if we do want to consider doing one of these again, is that artists may not be inclined to donate artwork on an annual basis to something like this, because, you know, a lot of these artists are professionals, and their artwork sells for large sums in galleries, and it takes them many months sometimes to put these types of pieces together. But with that being said, we did include this year some artisan, like, you know, woodworking type pieces in the auction, and those were very popular as well. So we have had some preliminary discussions as a team as to, you know, somehow bringing an auction format back, and you know, maybe perhaps focusing more the next one on arts, pardon, crafts and artisan materials, woodworking products like cutting boards, etc. So, but certainly, Tom, we'd love to bring it back again at some point, and we would come to the committee with that for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Lawrence, and then Bill, and then Cindy. It's Lawrence. Okay, not hearing Lawrence. He can pop in. Bill, and then Cindy. Bill Spurl, you're muted, but your hand is up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I couldn't get the darn thing to come on. I'm jumping ahead to number 10 and wondering, will we need a March 4th meeting? Because I believe that there's been a general agreement that the joint meeting should be, if it can be held, it'll be much later in the year to get people in person together rather than to try to do it virtually with the number of people that would be involved. So perhaps we need to take a look at the March 4th meeting and its necessity, and or should it be assigned to another time?
Okay, just before we move on to the next meeting, Cindy, did you have a comment on?
Yeah, it was just on your comment, John. Reveler. I've been one of the rebels in Reveler, and Somebody's maintaining it because I've been 3 or 4 times. The parking lot is plowed when I've been, and the trail is great. So I don't know who's doing it. It's not just trodden from people. Somebody's going in there with something. I don't know what it is, if it's a 4-wheeler or what, but yeah, it's very easy to use. So I didn't realize I wasn't supposed to use it, to be honest, because the gate was open and it was cleared. And even if there's 2 or 3 cars in the parking lot, I don't see anybody when I'm in there. So it's a very safe place to access, even safer than some of my local conservation areas. So that was it. Thanks.
I see Doug's hand is now up.
Thank you. I just go to comment on Bill's suggestion, and maybe John is going to make a comment, but I totally agree with Bill that given the importance and the format of the March meeting, that I think it might be wise to seriously take a look at advancing that up to later in the year.
Okay, so we're done our community comments, and then we'll move to the next meeting. So it sounds like March is out. Are we looking at?
I can comment on that, Madam Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
First, on the joint meeting, obviously for those listening, this has always traditionally been a great annual way for all of our committee members to come together with our board members and talk about our different committee and business area priorities. It's also been a great way for other members to learn more about different committees. And it's a month where we confirm our committee membership to the board, which also reminds me to remind you that if you are interested in serving on the committee again for another year, that you will need to email Chair Taylor and express your interest to stand for committee nomination again. Those nominations are confirmed at the board meeting in March traditionally. But with that being said, we are looking to postpone that joint meeting. I think it's something that we do benefit from an in-person attendance or something later in the year. But we do feel that it's important, at least once a year, to keep all the committee meetings at one time on one day, which gives people an opportunity, especially you guys, if you're interested, to tune into another committee meeting to learn about what they're doing and to watch as a participant. So if you're interested, that March meeting date is a great day to say, you know, maybe I want to tune into the Clean Water Committee and see what's going on. Maybe I want to watch the Forestry Committee and see what their priorities are this year. Same for Fish and Wildlife. So that's why we've kept those meetings on the same day. And in looking at our business priorities this spring, the reason why we put this meeting together in February was because we needed some approvals to help plan our work in the coming months. But we still feel it's important to come back in March with some more decisions, especially around programming for the spring. So staff do recommend keeping that March meeting. Should members still be available, we do believe we have a number of additional matters to discuss pertaining to our programs, and we'd like to set some directions for the summer. This will be the last meeting before we start our summer program in May.
Just a question for John. If March, if it would be held like early April, would that, or very close to the end of March, would that give staff time, or do you, what are you, just your thoughts there?
Yeah, 2 ones. I mean, yes, April would still work. It does, you know, it's still possible, but the intent of a joint committee day was to keep all those committees on the same day so that other committee members could also participate and watch our meeting if they were interested. The other reason and benefit to having at least one day in the calendar year where all of our committees are meeting is it's a good opportunity for members of the public who have expressed interest in joining a committee can tune in. And so we would recommend, if we can, to keep that date for that purpose.
Okay, thank you. Bill?
Just checking that I see no problem with that, but if each of the committees hold their meeting on that day and they're limited to 4 meetings for the year, it may mean that that there may not be as much activity, and the joint meeting would be later in the year, and therefore, unless it's combined with one of the other meetings later, it may be a problem for some of the committees to schedule an additional meeting. Communication seems to be able to do so, but maybe the others won't. So you're suggesting, John, that the 4 meetings would go ahead that day, but not the joint. Is that correct?
Correct. That's correct. I don't know if you heard me, but yes.
Okay, thank you.
I did. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so are we, can I just get, I'm gonna put hands down there. It says in the agenda that it's a joint committee meeting. That's for March 4th. So are we simply going to approve a committee meeting for March 4th at a 9 a.m. start? Or
yes, that's correct.
So, okay. So anyone else have any issues with March 4th?
Sorry, John, I have a question for you. It was listed as 3 p.m. for our comms meeting. Would that change with snow?
Oh, apologies. No, you're correct, Kelsey. I should have said something. We have, like in the past, chosen a different time for each meeting so that if there was an eager committee member or an eager community member that wanted to watch them all in real time, that they could. And so traditionally, we have selected the 3 p.m. meeting time. We can amend, we can pick a time that works best for the committee, but Kelsey is correct. We do have to choose a different time for each committee meeting. Sorry about that.
Okay, so currently, what is it sitting at? 3 p.m., March 4th at 3 p.m.?
Correct.
For the Communications Committee meeting. All right, so let's just keep that one here. And can I get it, show of hands for March 4th at 3 p.m. for the Communications Committee meeting? 1, 2, 3, 4. I see 4, 5. And just, I want a firm count because there was discussion opposed to it. So please keep your hand.
If there are other suggestions, please feel free. We can always pick an evening time.
Just click on, instead of holding your hand in front of the camera, click on the hand in your picture. So I see 1, 2, 3 hands raised. Oh, wait, now I see 1, 2.
See 8.
You see 8. Chair. I see, okay. So anyone else that, so, okay, now, so that's 8. And I'm going to ask you to please put your hands down and a firm hand up for opposed to the March 4th at 3 p.m. I see 4, 5. So 4, 3.
Are there members who wish to propose an alternative time for us to consider?
Yes, I would. Can you, am I an open mic, I think? Yes. I would like to suggest that that the different committees may wish to opt for their meetings and advertise them to others at some time along over the next few weeks or months. Because what I see happening now is, if I remember correctly, 2 of the meetings were held at 9 or 9:30, and 2 of them were held at 3. And if we may this one to 1, that would answer one of the problems, but still 2 of the meetings are going on at 9 or 9:30ish, and that means that if the object is to make them available for people to listen in, they can't listen into 2. And so I do want to have the joint meeting. I think you've indicated it's important. I do think that it's been discussed at a couple of levels, and it was thought that maybe September, October, if everything lifted and people got their shots, etc. But regarding all others having their meeting on the 4th, I have a feeling some had discussed it back before Christmas and considered not being involved in that one. And that needs to be checked.
I'd like to comment and say that first, all of that March date, it will be the first meeting for the rest of the committees. This is the only committee that's meeting in advance of that start date. So on that date, it will be the first committee meeting of the year for clean water, forestry, and fish and wildlife. But I like Bill's suggestion. We can consider another time. And because we've postponed or aim to postpone that joint meeting, 1 p.m. might be a desirable time for our meeting on the 4th, if that works.
Okay, so again, show of hands for March 4th at 1. I want to get as much of a consensus as possible because it's important that we all be able to be there. So I see 3. I see 6 hands.
7.
7. Okay, 7. And so 1 is not working for 1. For how many people? 1 o'clock does not work for
4 people, possibly 5.
2. I see 2 hands for it does not work for 2 people. Given that everything is virtual, and people can go and watch these online, is it so important that they're all on the same day? Could they be a day apart or?
I think it's important for committee members especially and board members who are interested, who want to participate. I think a lot of people in the public are looking to listen, but I think traditionally what we've seen on this day is we have board members and committee members looking to participate. And so that participation means that they could physically or virtually attend. But what we could do, Chair Taylor, is we could send out a doodle poll. We could include some options. We can have the committee direct us to schedule that meeting via the doodle poll, and we can offer a few times on that date and see what works best.
Okay, that'll be the fastest way to do it.
Correct.
All right, good enough. Thank you for that. So we'll come up with a date by email. Okay, so do we have adjournment? Move to adjourn? Tom? Bill? All right, thank you guys for taking part and for your patience. We'll see you in March.
Thank you,
Stay safe.
everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Thanks,
See you
everyone. Bye.
later.
Enjoy the weather. Bye-bye.
All.
Bye, everyone.